Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Papanchitam bhikkave rogo papanchitam gando papanchitam sallang. Tasmatiha bhikkave nipapancharamena cetasa viharissamati. Evaං hivo bhikkave sikkhitabbaṅ. Dear friends in Dhamma, so yesterday we discussed certain aspects of thought formations, kind of generation of various thoughts, and even we discussed during the question and answer session. So this is with respect to the information available in the Yavakalapi Sutta. Yavakalapi Sutta is actually available in the Salayatana Sangyutta, where Buddha give a very interesting similes emphasizing how our mind gets stressed up, how our mind become agitated in one sense. Giving the simile of the sheep of the barley, so he mentioned that it's very much like 7 people are coming using flails and thrashing the barley, and so that they become very much like powdered. So similarly, by taking various sense impingements, various sense objects through our senses, so our mind become utterly confused, utterly distracted, fairly bombarded. So likewise, going through kind of a frustration process. And on the other hand, as the 7th proliferation, so Buddha emphasized that we even think about another life, what's going to happen next life. So attaching those thoughts, again one become even further confused and get into a kind of a perplexity. So that is one side that Buddha emphasized. And then next, he explained about the subtlety of this process. So giving another simile, where how the Vipassana is bond, that as you can remember, there was a battle between the Devas and the Asuras, and the Asuras were beaten. And the Devas actually binding the king of the Asuras. His name is Vipassana. And now he is being bound using 5 places: neck, 2 hands and the 2 legs. And then taken to the assembly hall of the Devas. And if he think that the Devas are righteous and the Asuras are unrighteous, I better stay with the Devas without going to the Asura realm, then he will be fairly released. On the other hand, the most probable thought is that he may be thinking, Devas are unrighteous, Asuras are righteous, I need to escape from these Devas and I have to go back to the Asura realm. Then the bondage will be further tightened. So therefore Buddha mentioned the whole process, this whole bondage is dependent upon the thought of the Vipassana Asura. The Asura, the king Asura, the Vipassana. And there Buddha mentioned, highlighted, even subtler is the bond of the Mara. And if one is having a single thought, even a thought formation, I am, then Buddha mentioned he is being bounded. He is under the trap of the Mara. And there he come across 5 types of thought formation, 5 types of possibilities, how the mind start thinking. So the first one is called conceiving, the imaginations. So we are tempted to imagine. And all these imagination are I-based. The center of the whole imagination is center of I. So based on I, you can imagine. So that is one way of thought formation. Then the other thing is the craving-based imagination, or rather craving-based thoughts. So there are various thoughts, there are various desires, various cravings available, and as a result of that, more and more thinking are promoted. So that is another route we can say, which is promoting thinking. Then Buddha mentioned the third type, that is called the Pandana, where we as human beings, as any being, so we are so dependent on so many factors, not just one thing, but dependent on so many things. And once that those external factors being affected, external factors being influenced, external factors being changed, so we being dependent on those, we become start of thinking about oneself, center of I, and then the thoughts are arising. Pandita. Kind of an agitation arises when what we are associating are kind of under a kind of a change, kind of a distraction, kind of a change, evolution. And when we are actually bound, when we are dependent, we expect certain kind of characteristics from those objects, but they themselves can't maintain such kind of a stability. They are not really permanent or everlasting. They are constantly changing. So we being the dependents, so we are in a utter kind of a confusion, kind of a shock. As a result of that, we start thinking. So this is the third one. The fourth one is what actually we were discussing in this month, starting from yesterday. So that is called the conceptual proliferation, prapancha. So our minds have a kind of a tendency. So we are very much like diversifying in our thinking. It is not kind of a single directed. It is not a single angle that you are looking at, but from different ways that the mind is constantly going different directions, and it may lead to a kind of a confusion. So when you think about your own mind, it is not maintaining kind of a same objective every time, rather it is jumping from this to that. So we have 6 senses. As a result of that, there are more and more sense objects are happening. So we are tempted to think in terms of those. And again we can imagine. As a result of that, we can think. So again we associate the past. As a result of that, we think. We imagine about the future. As a result of that, we can think. So very much like, so our mind is very much like tempt to think. So kind of an inner trait is there, kind of a habit is there, and we can even say it's a kind of an addiction is there to think in many fold ways. So ultimately the end result is you're being a victim of that whole thinking process. So that's why, as we discussed on yesterday, so that kind of uncontrolled, obsessive overthinking ultimately end up with various mental diseases. Maybe depression, maybe OCD, whatever it is. So different, even mental diseases are now, they have named. The root cause is this overthinking, obsessive thinking. So under this setting, actually we try to understand how Buddha is talking about various root causes of this thinking. And we understood how it has started with very dependently arisen, innocent kind of a process. Then how we interrupt or how we interfere that process. We are adding our own personal stuff. And ultimately it ends up with a full conceptual proliferation. So we ourselves become the victim of that whole process. And complete confusion, maybe agitation, maybe conflicts, arguments, quarrels, wars, battles, everything is possible. Now, how to overcome them? That's what we are going to discuss today. How to overcome our inner chatter, how to overcome our confusion, how to at least minimize this conceptual proliferation. So, immediately we can't find a solution directly by face-to-face having a kind of a battle with the mind. Rather, the approach is kind of a strategic way, we can say. So that's why Buddha started with the Kaya-nupassana. So the idea is, immediately without trying to control the thoughts, what we are trying to do is pay more attention onto the body. Maybe a wholesome, neutral activity. As you know, the body breathes. So the breathing is a very effective method to stop too much thinking. So you can practice it and see for yourself. So for a vitakka charita, you know, our different characters are sometimes explained in the Dhamma. So certain people are more into thinking. We can say kind of skeptic. They are too much thinking, too much doubtful, skeptical. And for such characters, the main meditation technique recommended is Anapanasati, mindfulness on breathing. So when you are allowing your mind to settle with the breath, so breath has its own calming effect. So it is not that you are controlling the breathing, rather as you are carefully start observing breathing, naturally breathing starts settling. So that's a very interesting phenomena. It is not that you are trying to forcefully calm down breathing. When you are starting the practice, your mind may be agitated. But slowly, time to time, you are now trying to keep your attention on different breaths. Say, once a while, assume that you are able to pay your attention to breathing. Again, proliferation. Again, once a while, you are paying attention to breathing. Again, proliferation. Again, breathing. Again, proliferation. Again, breathing. Now, what happens when you are doing like this? So, the point is, now we are not encouraging the proliferation, rather at different places we are cutting that stream. So, kind of a vicious cycle is going on. Rather than being fully victimized to it, time to time I am cutting it off. And I encourage that breathing rather than the proliferation. So more you pay attention to breathing, now that proliferation becomes weaker and weaker. Ultimately you assume that you are able to pay attention to 10 breaths. So during that attentive period, what happened to the proliferation? So it becomes weaker. Because without your influence, without your participation, even this proliferation can't continue for a long time. Now purposely now we are diverting our attention to this kind of bodily process that ultimately take care of completely calming down the proliferation, and you end up with a tranquil mind. And you yourself may experience, okay, now I am fully aware of breathing. I can be aware of the beginning of the in-breath, middle of the in-breath, end of the in-breath, then the little gap, then the beginning of the out-breath, middle of the out-breath, end of the out-breath, then another gap, beginning of the in-breath. So likewise you are very carefully observing that breathing pattern, breathing cycle. And surprise, now your thoughts are gone. So you can't find out thinking now, but you are fully attentively, with some tranquility, you are observing the breathing. So in order to come to this stage, actually you can't do it when your mind is going on and on in thinking. Actually the thinking process has to be fairly calmed down. Inner chatter has to be fairly calmed down if you have to reach to this breathing process. So immediately you can't even come to that. That's why we are trying various techniques, like say when in-breath happens, you are noting it as in. When out-breath happens, you are noting it as out. So that process itself is kind of a blow to the proliferation process. The more you being able to establish mindfulness on this breathing, slowly that proliferation process become weaker and weaker, and ultimately, as I just mentioned, you can even recognize subtle characteristics of breathing. As a result of that, as a side effect, we can say whole mental proliferation has temporarily subsided. So what happened once you get up? It starts again. Okay, so therefore the technique is good, but it is giving temporary results. And then another technique, say if you consider walking, say while walking, say you are again thinking, constant thinking may be going on, but time to time when your foot touches the ground, so it gives a significant impact to the mind and even to the body, because it's a kind of a thrust. Your foot is touching the ground, especially when you are walking on the, say, choir mat, or if you are walking on the sand path. There's a huge impact happening to your soles. So that's a kind of an indicator that I need to pay attention there. It's a kind of an invitation. So maybe you are in a dream, but when your foot is touching the ground, it's a kind of an indication, it's a kind of an invitation for you to be there. So assume that you are able to keep your attention on that particular place for 10 steps. So as I mentioned, in the Anapanasati, similarly here, so that's a 10 blows to this vicious cycle. So more and more you are paying attention to the, say, this steps. So that means you are fueling less and less to the proliferation. So ultimately you can simply walk without proliferation. And you are fully aware of the whole process, the bodily process. Each and every step touches, and you are fully there. And internally you are calm, you are relaxed, mind has tranquilized. But when you are going to the cafeteria, then again thoughts happening, again talks happening, again rumors happening. So the whole process restarts. So anyway, so these are some very good techniques that giving you a kind of a possibility, giving you kind of an indication that your mind is capable of calming down. So sometimes we think, okay, I am utterly confused, I have no way out. The machine is continuously working, can't stop. But these kind of techniques actually help you to give a kind of a positive feedback, telling yes, it is possible. Doesn't matter, it is temporary, yes, but it is possible. And you get a kind of a taste of that. And probably while being mindful of the breathing, you were able to experience that. And then you remember that, oh my goodness, I had a really calm time, a huge relaxed time. How can I achieve it again? Because you experience it, you feel the beauty of it. You experience the bliss of it. It's very much like, say, you are in a house. Suppose that your wife is too talking. talking, starting from the beginning and till the night. Talking. Suppose that wife has gone somewhere and you find, oh my goodness, what a release. So similarly, our minds are internally talking. Maybe your mouth is shut, but mind is talking, endless talking. How about while your mouth is shut, how about the mind also calm? How about the mind also being quiet? So then you find a kind of a new kind of an experience. So far you were thinking this is a kind of an endless chattering, never ending. But now you found, okay, there's another paradigm available. I can even be there. I am not sleeping. I am fully aware. But mind is calm, mind is relaxed. Not even a single thought. So these things are possible, but temporary. And then we can think of how we can at least give a significant blow to this conceptual proliferation. Actually, before doing that, I like to further explain a few more methods explained in the Vipassana Sutta, certain temporary solutions further explained in this particular sutta. So, very interesting way of, calming down proliferation. One thing is called, you are changing your attention to something wholesome. So these are again becomes meditation techniques. Say for example, you are a person who gets quickly angry, short-tempered. So again and again you are thinking, going on and on in a burning way, hating others. And rather than allowing mind to continue like that, say you are changing the attention to a different object. Maybe you are listening to a music. Maybe you start thinking someone whom you love, whom you appreciate. Maybe something kind of a past incident that you really appreciate, about a person whom you can really appreciate. Or if you are familiar, you can change it completely to loving kindness meditation. So if you are an anger character, so therefore these options are possible rather than continuously being angry. So you need to give a solution to yourself. Don't expect the Buddha or someone else come and give you a solution. You yourself have to be the savior. So you need to understand what's going on in my mind. If I am an angry character, it is not good for me. I am the one burning. I am the one going to hurt. So I am the one going to suffer. Why should I do that? So let me change my attention to something wholesome, something useful. So this technique is the first technique that Buddha recommends. So it's a kind of a diverting your attention to something wholesome, rather than allowing the mind to continuously go on and on with something unwholesome. So that is where the loving kindness meditation is available, compassion meditation is available, and the altruistic joy meditation is available. Maybe Asubha meditation is available. If you feel that you are suffering or boiling with the lust, maybe a little bit of loathsomeness, reflecting about the loathsomeness of the body, quite useful. So rather than boiling with anger, you are doing loving kindness. Rather than boiling with lust, probably you are turning your attention to the loathsomeness of the body. Then you can come at least to a little burning. So this is one technique. Then the next technique is reflecting about the danger. So rather than immediately cutting off the thought, so you are starting a side track, understanding what are the dangers of this way of thinking. Now suppose you are continuously thinking about someone and hating him or her continuously. The very thing coming to your mind is about that person, what he did to you, hating. Now, if you are able to understand the danger of that process, what is happening within you, so what's going to do that to your mind? What's going to do to your body? So your whole body becomes burning. So all these are very much psychosomatic. So you may end up with a lot of other issues, health issues. And you can't actually maintain a calm mind. You are always in a kind of a boiled state. So even your loved one may suffer because of your temper. So you can understand these dangers, disadvantages, and Buddha mentioned, so more you understand those disadvantages, so you are not promoting this kind of thinking. Now you want to correct yourself. So in order to correct ourselves, we need to understand the problem. Without proper understanding of the problem, we can't find a solution. So this is where you understand the heaviness, the gravity of the problem. Understand the danger of this unwholesome type of thinking. Then the third method is called Asati Amanasikara. That is the favorite of Mrs. Rajapaksha. Asati Amanasikara. So rather than being sati and manasikara, now you are doing the opposite, asati and amanasikara, where you are not being mindful of what you are coming to the mind, rather you turn away, completely shut it off, something like that. So the thing is, now if a particular stream of thoughts to grow, I have to pay my attention to that, I have to feed it, and it may give some enticing effect, then I am further encouraging that. By adding my own energy, now it is growing. Now, what happens if I simply neglect? If I change my attention to something else? So that's the technique Buddha recommends. So it's very much like he is giving a beautiful example. Say that there may be someone that you don't want to look at, but unfortunately he is coming in front. What can you do? You can simply turn back, right? I mean, you can turn your head. Probably you have done that. You don't even want to look at him. So you are simply turning your head. So Buddha say this asati amanasikara is like this. So rather than paying attention to that particular stream of thoughts, you are very much like neglecting that thought. You are turning your attention to something else. Not giving enough attention to that. So that's another technique Buddha recommends. Actually, these techniques, as per the teaching, so you start with the very first one. Say, trying with alternative one, changing the subject. Second one is understanding the danger. Third one is this asati amanasikara. You are kind of ignoring what's happening in the mind, so that you are not giving strength unto it. And then the fourth one is that trying to find out the root. Say, rather than you going on and on with the superficial level, and if you can little turn back, step back and find out how I start thinking like this. From when I start thinking like this? How did I start? So it's give you another perspective. Rather than simply fueling the whole process, now you take a different turn and you look at the other side. So if you are able to do that way, so that is another way, because you are not promoting that the flood going on, that trend going on. Now you are breaking the trend. Instead of allowing to continue the trend on and on, now you take a different turn and you are now trying to recognize the causes. So the Buddha mentioned, okay, this is another technique that you can calm down too much thinking. And the last one is where you are using your willpower, you are going to stop it using your willpower. So that may have some adverse effects. I mean, you feel headache and that can be possible because you are using the mere willpower to stop it. That's difficult, by the way. That's the last resolve that you have. So these are interesting techniques that Buddha mentioned in the Vipassana Sutta, explaining these things. Now, interestingly, Buddha mentioned if you are able to control your thinking, now if we can add more Vipassana also into the picture, very much like it doesn't mean that we are prohibiting thinking. When you recognize, okay, there is something to think, there is I need to ponder, okay, you can do it. But under your vigilance, under your surveillance, under your supervision, now mind is thinking, fine. But you are not allowing the mind to overwhelm you. You are not allowing the mind to overthink. Under your supervision, now the mind is thinking. That's allowed. That's mindful thinking. So you are being mindful of what the mind is thinking. So that is possible. Now say, for example, you are working as a kind of a professional, and you may have to plan, you may have to design, you may have to take a decision, you have to consider various possibilities. Definitely you have to think. But there's a kind of a internal stability within your mind. It is not allowing the mind to completely overwhelmed by those thinking. So typically what happens is, we may start like that, but because of the attraction, because of the beauty, or because of the too much involvement of that particular subject, we ultimately being absorbed to that. Now we can't stop. So point is, first establish mindfulness, have fair amount of your own stand. Then under your purview, okay, now you allow the mind to little think about it, consider about it. Now if you are done, okay, now again calm down. So this is possible actually when you are further and further continuing the path, not immediately. So typically we are very much like helpless. So we are like helpless victim of the mind. Constantly it's taking us for a ride. But as we are continuing, so these are the interesting areas. Can you think under your supervision? Under the supervision of mindfulness, can you allow your mind to think? So you can think about it. Now in Baddhaka Sutta, so Buddha, as we discussed, actually Venerable Sariputta, again explain how to have a noble death, a wise death. So the opposite is mentioned. We discussed yesterday the unwholesome side. Today we can discuss about the wholesome side. So therefore the first one is called na kammara mohoti. So don't do too much work. So one after the other, endless work. So you have to find a rest. You need to find a break. So if you are too much occupied, if you have no time even to breathe, busy, every time busy, so that's not going to help you. So therefore the one thing is na kammara mohoti. This is a kind of an addiction. You always want to occupy yourself. So you need to step back and look at your tendencies available in your mind. Am I want to occupy myself? Say, why are we constantly finding out kind of a job, finding out kind of an assignment, finding out some kind of a duty? Is it really that the duty requires you? Are you the main person? Are you the real person? Are you the most suitable person to do that? Or you want to engage yourself? Or you want to distract yourself by being engaged with that particular duty, by being engaged with that particular task? Now, these things we need to consider. Now, why am I fully occupied? Why am I can't take a rest? Why I can't simply sit back and have a nice time? Why should I constantly running? So we need to think about our own self. So no one will come and find out your own traits. So we ourselves have to find out these traits. So if you are too involved with too many things, too many duties, too many tasks, then please check, am I addicted in too much work? Am I preoccupied with these things? So this is the one thing. Second thing is, na bassara mohoti. Don't endlessly talk. So have a break. So don't too much engage in talking. It's an utter distraction. So if you do too much talking and then you come and start, trying to develop mindfulness, very, very difficult. You yourself may find it out. Say you spend too much time in the cafeteria talking, and then when the bell rings, and then you come and immediately try to sit. Utter failure. Because what you have talked may come to your mind. So therefore, don't encourage too much talking, chattering. What is necessary you can talk, of course, no problem. But keep it short, to the point. Don't find this and that and various, subjects and continue it for hours and hours. So understand, this time is very limited. You are not living forever. So don't just waste your time just in talking. Actually, we can add this to the today's other possibilities as well. Because during the Buddha's time, nowadays, what are the engagements are not available. Say, for example, the WhatsApp, emails, newspapers, internet, YouTube. What else? Movies, radios. How many things are there for us to get engaged? That is another way of talking, isn't it? We are interacting with, constantly we are interacting. We can't just be secluded. So you always want to connect online. So that is actually highlighted as separate thing also. So this is another way of talking to others. So don't too much engage in like this. So then you don't have enough time to look about yourself. So in order to look at yourself, you need some time. Have a kind of a wise reflection. So when your mind is too much distracted, you are completely extrovert, how can you direct your attention to yourself? Impossible. So the next one is na niddara mohoti. Don't encourage too much sleeping. As he said, so we have very limited time. Suppose you are living 70 years, 80 years, maybe half of it we are sleeping. So you need to divide your lifespan to half. 80 years, that means 40 years only you are living. Rest of the time you are sleeping. Maybe while meditating. Maybe while traveling, or maybe while on your bed. All are counted. You are not in this present moment. You are not vigilant, you are not wakeful, you are sleeping. All are, waste of time. So, encouragement here is that you are very much like doing kind of a time management. So, how can I effectively use my time? It is not that we have to go against sleeping. Of course, we need to give enough rest. We need to have a good sleep. That's also a must. And nowadays, people don't have that even. That's another problem nowadays people are having. Even though they have a really nice, sofa and the AC, the fan, everything is available, and they go try to sleep, they can't sleep. That's another problem, isn't it? Now the people have the sleep deficiencies. They are not having enough sleep. That's causing another type of problems. You can see how complicated now the society is. We as human beings, how complicated our lives are. Previously we are very simple human beings, innocent human beings. Now we have fully corrupted. Now these teachings actually help us to look back where we were. What's the proper way of living? Where am I running out? To which direction this rat race is going? Yesterday one yogi was talking to me. She was telling, Bhante, to which direction this rat race is going? Very true. We are running because the others are running. So I am also running. Where? To the cemetery? Just actually recently I saw one doctor, Hagade or someone, that Indian doctor, that he was talking to some professionals and he was advising rather than taking vitamins D's, you better go and stay in the outside during the sunshine at least 1 hour. So the audience are now going against him. You see, doctor, we are in a busy life. We have no time to stay 1 hour in the sunshine. Then he is telling a very interesting answer. Yeah, you are in a fast track to your growth, fast track to your death. Very true. So we are in the fast track to death. Where are we running? Fast track to the death. Very short life. You know that our lifespan is slowly reducing. Now say our grandparents, maybe they lived about 90 years, 100 years. Maybe our parents, maybe 80 years, 70 years. How about us? How about our children? So we are in a different cycle. We are in a race, fast track. Where? Now, the next one is Sanganikaramo. Na Sanganikaramo. So that means too much socializing. So just cut off too much socializing. Find your time. So do not too much engage with people. Have your own time. Have some time for you. And then Sansaggaramo. So too much binding with the people. You are maintaining some too close relationships with too many people. Then it's very difficult. Everyone is coming and bugging you. You have to answerable to too many things. So who is taking care of you? So people may tell that you are a selfish person when you are doing like this. But who is taking care of you? Now assume that you are taking care of your husband, your wife, your children, your parents, your grandparents, your neighbors, your country, your neighboring country. What's the limit? So sometimes we have this, what's that called? So we are trying to be too compassionate, too involved, and ultimately, so you are being too frustrated. Because every day a problem is available. You can't find the perfect world. Every day there's something to be worried. So this nasansaggārāmo basically means that maintaining some kind of a seclusion, not going too much intimate relationships. Then the last one is related to today's topic, na papancārāmo. That means na papancārāmo hoti, na papancarato, na papancārāmatang aniyutto. So you have a kind of a desire not to have too much thinking, not to get involved with conceptual proliferation. Currently assume that you can't do it, doesn't matter. But have a kind of an inclination in your mind, someday I need to calm down my mind. I want to enjoy such kind of a mind. I want to enjoy a mind which is not talking, not chattering. I want to enjoy one day this silent mind, inner silence. Have a kind of a direction in that. Enjoying inner silence. So sometimes people think it's a boredom. It is a boredom because we are used to agitation, provocation. So when you are used to provocation, constantly you are bombarding your mind. Through the eyes you are looking at, say, exciting films, for example. Say, always fighting, maybe raping, maybe all disasters, wars. By looking at them, what are we doing? We are agitating the mind. So externally a raping incident, but you are raping your mind. You are polluting your mind by looking at them. So if you are continuously doing that, ultimately you end up with utter confusion. For such a person, if you are talking about silence, so he feels sleepy. Definitely he may sleep. Because mind is utterly become gross, heavy, burdened, agitated, and for such a person, kind of a relaxed music, not appealing. He may fall asleep, he may fall bored, he may get up and walk. So if you are used to very noisy, very high kind of music, then if you are trying to listen to a very soft Beethoven music, you may fall asleep. So anyway, we need to understand now, we need to refine our mind. We need to calm down the mind, relax the mind. We need to improve the sensitivity of the mind, rather than allowing it to become blunt. Because sometimes, even though there are relationships, the one person can't understand someone else's feelings. So this person is very much like indifferent or very much like blunt. No senses like. Can't recognize someone else's feelings. No empathetic. So, relationships can't last. But as human beings, we have to be empathetic, we have to be a sensible human being, we have to be sensitive, we have to be fully aware about ourselves, then we can be aware of another person, we can be empathetic to another person. So in order to do these things, actually having kind of an encouragement of this inner silence, kind of a sensitivity, being a good human being, living in the ground, these are essential factors. So these are the points that Buddha is encouraging. So kind of an inner yearning for inner silence. Let me calm down myself. Let me relax. Let me enjoy this inner silence. That kind of a direction. So that's why you are having kind of a delight in silence. Not in provocation, not in agitation, not in too much talking, but silence. Now, while these directions are there, assume now you are practicing meditation, say into Vipassana now. So slowly, as you are practicing Kayanupassana, now you get some kind of an understanding. Now you are developing fair amount of mindfulness, and you can be mindful at least for some time. You can recognize, okay, now breathing happens, mind has somewhat calmed down, continuously breathing happens. Now I can be mindful for about 50 breaths, 100 breaths. So likewise you feel another dimension. Rather than thinking and imagining, now you are opening up to another side. You are knowing. You are sensing. You are sensing your very body. So these are two things. So typically we are thinking, we are imagining, and we are hearing from someone and copying and memorizing, and we are trying to find a solution. But here, rather than promoting thinking, you want to aware of what's going on, how this breathing happens. Now, in order to know breathing, do you want to know a language? We don't need, right? Do we need a religion? No need. Breathing happens. So breathing is a common characteristics available in the body. So it's available. You can connect with it. So you don't need to think in order to know the breathing. So that's why. So these are very interesting areas that we as human beings who can explore. So this breathing process doesn't require you to think, but you can fully connect with it. You can fully be with it. You can be fully aware of it. And there's a different dimension now you are opening up in yourself. So far we are in the conceptual proliferation, conceptualizing various things, imagining various things, thinking various things. But now you are not promoting that side, but now you are promoting awareness. So let me feel my breathing. Let me feel rising and falling. Let me know what is the posture I am in. What are the sensations available right now? So those kind of things takes your attention to yourself. Now we are somewhat introvert, we can say, rather than extrovert. So your attention is drawn within. Now you are being familiar with what's going on. Say while eating, now you are mixing the food, you are fully aware. And the smell happens, you are fully aware. You are taking the lump sum to your mouth, you are fully aware. You are chewing it, you are fully aware. What's the taste, you are fully aware. So we are developing the awareness. So rather than thinking. So do you need thinking to eat? So do you need thinking to brush your teeth? I mean, these are simple activities. You don't need too much thinking, isn't it? So there are many such activities. If you are paying enough attention, so you can calm down thinking. So they are very, very subtle activities, ordinary activities. Typically we ignore them because we think, okay, that thing which I require to think is the most important thing. Let me think about it. So brushing happens automatically. But now we need to revert the whole process. So let me stop thinking, let me be aware of brushing the teeth. Let me aware of eating. Let me aware of walking. Let me aware of the posture. So now we are taking a different turn. So more you are continuing, now you may feel that you are living with yourself. So that's why Buddha mentioned very beautifully, Ajjattameva chittang santittati sannisidati ekodi hoti samadhiyati. So Buddha mentioned the terms in the one sutta. Ajjattameva chittang santittati. That means you feel internally steadied. Internally you are settled. Sannisidati. Internally you are quietened. Ekodi hoti. You become very much like singled. Your mind was scattered. Now you feel like collected. Samadhiyati. You feel like concentrated. You may feel like well collected, calmed down, relaxed, tranquilized. So all these are possible through Kayanupassana. The body-based meditation. Maybe yoga, maybe, exercises. If you are doing mindfully, it's not that while doing all these things you think about different things, you can't get the benefit. But if you are doing all these different bodily activities mindfully, then slowly, so the mind's energy will be collected to yourself. So you are now start living. Now, without stopping there, now we are doing the investigation. We are doing the insight practice. Say, for example, you are investigating what are the element characteristics available. Rather than giving more energy to the concepts, now you are connecting to these various very basic kinds of bodily characteristics. Like, say, for example, while walking, you can feel the hardness, you can feel the movement, you can feel the vibrations, you can feel the heat, you can feel the cold. So these are very primary characteristics. You don't even need a word to know that. So this element meditation, or what we call the Dhatu Manasikara, so different elements are showing their availability, their presence through various characteristics. Either heaviness, or either lightness, either hardness or softness, or say roughness or smoothness, maybe say flowing, vibration, movement, heat, cold. So these are very basic kind of characteristics. Now you don't need thoughts to know them. You don't need a language to know them. So we are promoting that very subtle awareness, fairly precise attention. And now you are continuing the investigation. And continuing of this investigation help you to understand their true nature. It is not that you are imposing their true nature by going through a book, that they are impermanent, they are unsatisfactory, they are non-self. It is not that you are imposing these characteristics to your mind. Rather, now you are starting your own experiment. You are practically continuing your path, investigating their behavior. You understand their presence using their characteristics. By direct observation, you understand how impermanent they are. By direct observation, you understand how unsatisfactory they are. Through investigation, you understand how non-governable or uncontrollable they are. So more and more you get these insights through investigation. Careful investigation, unbiased investigation, non-judgmental observation. So the more you do it, so your mind slowly becomes dispassionate towards that. So it's a kind of a principle. Kind of a, say, we can say, kind of a theory we can say. So if you know the true nature, then immediate effect is that you can't grasp it. You can't hold it strongly. Because you know the true nature. You know that not possible to grasp, not worthy of grasping, not worthy of holding, not worthy of telling it is me, mine, myself. Because you understood it. Under your very nose, under your very inspection, under your very investigation, you know their true nature. So naturally mind starts letting go. It is not forceful letting go. It is not that you are forcefully abandoning. Rather, mind will naturally let it go. Now suppose when you are doing that, suppose for a moment that mind has let go of the whole thing. And if you are really a clever person and you are not allowing the mind to go and hook up with another thing, say with feelings or with thoughts or any other things, assume that you have known the path, so skillfully you have continued your practice systematically, and this release has happened. At that moment, you get another kind of a perspective. So far your mind was fairly associating all these conditioned phenomena, but now minds come to another area where there is no phenomena. So far we were mindful with an object. Now you can be mindful without an object. So these are very interesting areas of the Vipassana practice. So we start with the practice of different objects. We are purposely being mindful. Deliberately we are establishing mindfulness. Later, through the investigation, slowly, you are developing fair amount of wisdom. So that wisdom take care of letting go of everything that you are attached to. So the mind now become very much like very, say, relaxed, empty, not preoccupied, not stressed up, and the clarity is there. So likewise, many characteristics are there in this kind of a mind. So if you are promoting this state now, so that is giving a extreme blow to what? Conceptual proliferation. So if you are promoting inner silence now you are actually finding out the inner silence. This is not mere subsiding of thoughts. This is where you are finding out a refuge, where you can stand without the intrusion of the thoughts, without the influence of the thoughts. Probably you can find out kind of a refuge where you can stand back and even see thoughts how they are coming and going. Like say you are on a land and you see how ships are going on the, maybe on the sea. You are not being affected. So the various ships are coming and you are simply watching. And there may be situations in the ocean, there are no ships. There may be, you are maybe in the ground and you maybe watch how clouds are going in the sky. And there may be situations, the sky is very clean, no clouds. So our mind is like that. So you may get a kind of a possibility. So various thoughts are now coming and going, but you are not bothered. Now you have the capacity to stand back, step back, look at them objectively. Rather than promoting thinking, now you internally appreciate that inner silence, but still thinking is going on. Don't worry, nothing to worry. But there's an inner inclination that I am appreciating inner silence. But thought is happening. But you know how it is coming, you know how it is going. You know how it is coming, how it is going. And there may be situations, no thought. You don't need to panic because you heard the teaching, you know the potential available in the mind. You can simply enjoy that inner silence, the absence of thoughts. And you're simply being there, just enjoying that moment. So the mind has that capacity. So mind has that potential. So thoughts are not a must for the mind. So if we are coming to this kind of a skill, so now it's a matter of mastering it. So dwelling in such kind of a state. So dwelling in emptiness. So sometimes when Venerable Ananda asked from the Buddha, Bhante, how did you spend this vassa? Ananda, I spent this vassa in emptiness. So his mind is very pure, clean. So dwelling in emptiness. It doesn't mean that you are in a more passive, negative kind of a state. So empty means empty of stress, empty of unwholesome thoughts, empty of defilements, empty of tension, empty of various casts and signs and perceptions and judgments and all these things. Then you are in a kind of a pure emptiness. So empty means kind of a rich emptiness. It is not kind of a negative, passive kind of emptiness. Empty means you are empty of I, mine, myself, judgments, preconceived ideas, this conceptual proliferations, stress, all these different things, which are the ones actually making us ill. So therefore, in this subject, actually in this Yavakalapi Sutta, so Buddha give a very interesting statement. Papanchitam bhikkhave rogo. Monks, this conceptual proliferation is a disease. Papanchitam gando. This conceptual proliferation is a boil. Papanchitam sallang. This conceptual proliferation is a dart. Tasmatiha bhikkhave nippapancha ramena cetasa viharissa mati evaṁ hivo bhikkhave sikkitabanti. Therefore, monks, have a kind of a direction, have a kind of an objective in yourself. I am going to live without conceptual proliferation. That is the way you need to restrain yourself. So with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for listening. So today, there are two things. Morning dana was offered in memory of late parents, Mr. and Mrs. Samarasinghe, and all other passed away relatives. And then lunch dana was offered by Suimali Surivira. Suimali Surivira. With her, wish her good health and blessings. So these are the two things, sharing of merits we have received today. And today also we have spent a fair amount of time developing mindfulness, wisdom, concentration, and we have take part in the Dhamma discussion and Dhamma sermon. And all the merits that we have accrued, let's share with all the celestial beings and with our past relatives and whoever in need of merits. And we wish these merits help us also to attain path, fruition, nibbana. While keeping these good wishes in our mind, let's recite the traditional verses. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu mam parang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.